Hi, Enon. So today what we're going to look at is a bit of an overview, introduction, I suppose, to the New Testament. So to start with, I guess, a bit of a contrast to the Old Testament. The Old Testament is obviously teachings and different stories such as the creation and different things like that around the world and around God's creation and teachings there. And in comparison to that, the New Testament really focuses on that time from Jesus' life onwards and the teachings of Jesus and what we've got from that. So those sort of teachings are obviously designed to influence our lives and our decision making as Christians, provide direction for our lives. So think of things like the Beatitudes, which are designed to teach us how to live a Christian life. So, to begin with, looking at the New Testament, it's a collection of 27 different books attributed to eight different authors. The books were written at different times and in different countries over the second half of the first century. So, being quite an old text, you're looking at a good 2,000 years since its creation. There is obviously disputes at times between people about who authored different parts of the New Testament, different sections, and also at the specific times that they were written. Uh, so, as I said, it deals with the early history of Christianity, particularly the beliefs and teachings of Jesus Christ. To break down, 27 books, four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's also got the Acts of the Apostles, 21 letters known as the Epistles, and an Apocalypse, which is called the Book of Revelation. So starting, we'll just have a quick look at the Gospels. So obviously Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The term gospel, it means the proclamation of good news. So obviously when we're talking about spreading the good news, we're really talking about spreading the teachings of Jesus, which is what the Gospels are truly about. So they tell a story of the life, death, resurrection, and teachings of Jesus Christ. The Gospels were written at different times for different people. So we need to keep that in mind and have a bit of an understanding of that, because it really gives us a reason, I suppose, as to why the Gospels are different as far as how they portray Jesus in certain stories at different times. So Matthew, for example, was the Gospel of Matthew was written for Jewish Christians in what we now call Syria. Mark was written for a Gentile Christian community in Rome. Luke's Gospel for a non-Jewish audience, and finally, John's was likely for a Gnostic community known as the Johannine. So, early Christian communities were a little bit different in their approach to and their understanding of Jesus, and that came from, I guess, their own experiences, who they were as people, and their own backgrounds, whether it was Jewish or Gentile, etc. So that's, I guess, why the Gospels were written at different times. So um, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, obviously, being written in different countries, they were spreading the good news. So they were at the time that they were written, moving around and talking about Jesus' life. So Matthew's concentrates on a relationship of Jesus to the Jewish faith, Luke on the blessings of salvation brought by Jesus. Mark's focus is on the authority and actions of Jesus, and John intended to enable others to experience the revelation of God's glory through Jesus. So what their focus is would also be heavily influenced by who they are, where they're talking, I guess, and where they're living and where they're preaching to at this particular time in their lives. So Acts of the Apostles, the Acts tell the story of the early Christian church, focusing on the ministry of the apostles. Key aspects of these include Jesus' resurrection, his ascension, Pentecost, the story of Paul's conversion, and a pretty significant focus on the Holy Spirit as well. The epistles, 21 letters written by various authors in the early days of Christianity. So don't think of them, and they're not, as private letters. They are letters which are open for discussion. They're intended for open discussion based on various teachings or challenges facing the early church. The letters themselves, whether it may be they were written for a local congregation or Christians in general, the idea is obviously part of that intention to teach how to live as Christians. So And finally, we've got what's called the Book of Revelation, also known as the Apocalypse. It's the last book of the New Testament. It's written by the author based on prophetic visions. So I guess visions that they saw of what would happen in the future, and so that included things such as what heaven was like, judgments, the second coming of Jesus, and the end of the world. So those, I guess, visions are quite unique to the rest of the New Testament. So they include things such as various monsters and different sort of portrayals about what would happen in the future. Obviously, what we've got here is an artist's impression of that. So thank you. Just complete the activities regarding this presentation and make sure you have that done. Thank you.